Okay, so welcome into this Nordic NaBS project's webinar about nature-based services and pricing. And it is me, Satu Välijärvi, project manager from the Oulu University of Applied Sciences, and then Jarmo Kastikainen, expert on rural enterprises that will be discussing these issues today. And here you see some contents of the webinar. I will talk about nature-based services in general, and then a little bit about public services and some things for especially an entrepreneur to think about when designing and developing the business and the services. And then Jarmo will talk about the skills of an entrepreneur and the pricing of services. So, what about nature-based services? I thought that it might be a good idea to think about the nature first, because it is the base of the nature-based services. That what do we actually mean by nature when we talk about nature-based services? And I thought that it is a good idea to discuss this a little bit as a background for your services and service development and the service design. So the nature may mean various things, and starting from the very wild nature, coming to the forests and other natural settings where there are some, for example, trails and paths that have come there, the actions of humans and animals. And there may be some light infrastructure in the forests, for example, some hiking trails and shelters, campfire places. There may be small public docks by the lakes or swimming places, boardwalks on the swamps and so on. Some light infrastructure in the very natural settings. Or then maybe some bigger buildings and infrastructures like towers for bird watchers and cycling routes and so on. But it's still very natural environment where there are some infrastructure that helps the moving and actions in the nature. Also, you can talk about nature in the rural landscape. There are fields, pastures, meadows, also buildings and infrastructure for farming. But still, you can use this as a nature for your nature-based services. Villages and small towns may be very, very like nature-like, and you don't actually know when you're in the village or in a town, and when you're or in a park, or when you are in nature. Everybody in his or her own mind makes the definitions and kind of define that when I am in the nature, when I am in somewhere else, whatever that then is. There's lots of nature in the urban environment as well: parks, waters, other natural elements, gardens, greenhouses, urban farming. All these may be nature. And you can have nature in-house. You may be doing some balcony or windowsill gardening, or have some green walls and house plants. But then you may have the nature as a virtual nature. There may be lots of elements, pictures, sound, smell, tastes from the nature that altogether make the feeling of the nature, although you're inside a room or in a virtual environment. And also you can kind of bring the nature inside by using wild food and other materials and products from the nature. So any of these could be a setting or an element of a nature-based service. So it's good for you to think in your service that what is the nature and what characteristics does it bring into your service. And here are some things that you may have to take into account when you're producing services, nature-based services, especially if you are in like the more wild nature you are in. So of course you have to take care of into account the weather conditions and seasons, can you provide services, your nature-based services, at any time of the year, and what different kinds of services you could have, what kind of logistics and equipment you need to provide your services in the nature. And then, of course, you have to take into account the respecting and protecting the nature and taking good care of the animals and their well-being. If you have, for example, if you're doing some kind of animal-assisted work. And you need to have lots of knowledge of the environment where your services take place, where you can move around, what you can eat there, where you can have some shelter if needed. You need to take care of the safety of your customers when you're moving in the nature. You have to pay attention to certain things. And you yourself as a service provider, and then your customers need certain skills to when you're moving in the different environments. And then you need to know the landowners and their rights and the everyman's rights, that you know, like where you can move around and what you can do in different places. So these are certain knowledge and skills that you as a provider of nature-based services need to have and consider. So this is like some general ideas about nature-based services, just to bring some context and background to your work. And green care services is like one certain kind of way of producing nature-based services. And in Finland, green care is being defined all the time. Kind of also in this project is one thing that we are doing. But there are some basic criteria that you should get to know and adapt if you're in your services, if you want to think and talk about yourself and your services as green care. The place where you can get good basic information about green care is the Green Care Finland and their webpage. Here I have a quotation from them, kind of giving the general idea what we mean when we talk about green care. So green care encompasses activities that maintain and improve human well-being and quality of life. And it is based on a variety of nature-based methods that rely on nature and animals. These activities may happen in rural and agricultural environments, but also in the woods, in the garden, or even indoors and in urban areas. Just like I was kind of ideating that what kinds of natures do we have, so you can have the green care in very different types of natures as well. And they may relate various occupational fields, such as healthcare, prevention of health problems or rehabilitation, and also education. That is a very important part of Nordic NaBS projects goals. The main building blocks of green care are activities. Green care activities are nature contact, meaningful activities, and social interaction. And some main methods in green care services, they are like animal-assisted therapy and activities, for example, riding therapy. They may be nature-assisted methods, for example, adventure education and eco-psychological interventions. And they may be rehabilitation in green environment, like, for example, horticultural therapy. And here, when we are talking about green care services, you need to pay attention to the fact that you need to have some social or healthcare expertise involved in these services. And we also can talk about then green empowerment, where the same basic building blocks maintain nature contact, meaningful activities, and social interaction. But here you don't need to have the healthcare or social sector expertise when you're providing the green empowerment services. So this is quite an important thing to know. So I suggest that if you're interested in this, really getting idea of what green care is about, so you should study the web pages of Green Care Finland quite well. Green care is also about the quality management. Green Care Finland and partners are doing the quality management and defining the quality of green care all the time and setting the criteria. And here are some basic ideas that you need to, when you do like quality green care work, you follow the green care principles and quality criteria, and you take care that you have the proper competence and professionalism in work. And you can prove that the services that you provide, that they are customer-centered, responsible, and goal-driven. You always ensure the safety of the services, safety of your customers using the services, and that you respect the nature and the well-being of the animals in the services. Also in Nordic NaBS we have had a webinar on green care. You can find it on our YouTube channel. If you go to youtube.com and write the Nordic NaBS, you'll find the channel where we have and will have our all webinars there. So there is already one webinar about green care, so I suggest that you listen to that webinar as well. Okay, so that was about the nature services, but then I will talk a little bit more about like services themselves and about that why services and nature-based services today are so much like on the top. They're kind of trendy things at the moment. And there is this idea about this service revolution that how we have had the agricultural revolution and industrial revolution. So now we've had this service revolution that has made the services very, very important part of the economy and our everyday life, especially here in the Western and Western countries. Moritz, who is a service designer and has written a very kind of one of the basic books on service design, he has defined that there are four main drivers that have led to the service revolution. That the service economy is booming. There are more and more need for the market for services, and people are more and more like there are so many products and physical goods on the markets that people can't or the companies can't differentiate anymore by the offer that they have, but they have to, or they try to differentiate by the services that they offer. So this is also about the product market that is satisfied. Technology enables services more and more all the time, and humans have these individual needs that the services can then fulfill. And these four main drivers by Moritz are from the year 2005, but they are still very, very valid today. So here we have some trends that, for example, about the services, that the role has grown very rapidly. In Finland and Sweden, the services produce around 70% of the national gross product today. For example, in Finland in 1980, this part of services was around 53% in 1980, and in 2000 it was around 60, and nowadays it's about 70% of the national gross product. So it's quite a very important part of the economy nowadays. Also, the service revolution, it proceeds in different ways and speeds in different parts of the world. And in Western countries, we have like real service boom. But it's the same thing is happening all around in the world and in economies that are in different development stages, and the effects are felt everywhere in the global economy. So there are more and more services coming to the market. Also, technology and media changes very rapidly all the time, and together these changes affect strongly both the service sector and the consumers' ideas of what they value and need. So you kind of can have the services very easily, for example, on your smartphone, and you can kind of choose very easily. But also, you, for example, the social media has changed the world so that you all the time also get ideas about what you might need, what is trendy at the moment, and what kind of services there are, and so on. So there may be, like, there are more and more possibilities to fulfill your very personal needs and individual needs, but at the same time there are, for example, through the social media, you may get very strong social pressures also about how you should consume and what kind of services and so on. So all these trends are pushing forward the service society and service revolution. But then there are also megatrends that are giving good support for the nature-based services. For example, all the trends in the working life in Finland, in Sweden, and I guess that everywhere all around the world, is that there's more and more haste and stress and burnout feelings coming, for example, the very rapid changes in technology that brings all the information so close to you, and you may have the feeling that you should be getting information and doing things all the time. So there are more and more ideas that maybe we should go back to the nature to get some relief from nature and get the possibility to recover from all the stress and burnout, and have the feeling of the silence and calmness of the nature. And this nature could be some very wild nature where you can go and hike, or then it can be a kind of virtual nature or houseplants at your home. But anyway, that you need to have some feeling of the nature and the greenness that gives you some relief from all the haste and stress and burnout. Also, we talk about these mega trends, and of course the climate change and worry of natural resources is one of the mega trends that is very much affecting the economy and the societies, the services, and also us as persons and individuals. And we get the feeling that we need to have much more sustainable production and consumption and wasted consumption, and this has led to the huge interest in discussions about, for example, how we could live so that we didn't have so many physical goods and things around us, and maybe we could get good feelings into life from the services, and maybe we could use services instead of buying everything to ourselves. So there are some slogans like fewer goods and more services and do more with less that are telling about these changes in business and in societies and in our personal lives. So I think that all this is like producing demand for sustainable services in the nature and on the nature-based service sector. So I think it's a very good time to design and develop nature-based business and services, and to market them. And maybe the next step we are already talking about this experience economy, where it's kind of the basic thing is that more and more products and services are basically same kinds of service solutions. So the service providers need to think that what is the real experience, maybe the wow effect even that you can offer in order to differentiate from your competitors that may have the very same kind of products. So what is the special experience that you are producing and giving to the customer? And as I was already talking about this, like consumers buy and want to buy less and less solely goods or services. So they buy more and more experiences and identity and self-actualization. How can you, if you're producing services, so how can you give these experiences and feelings of identity and self-actualization to your customers and the users of your services? And also there's this discussion going on about how business should produce value not only to the owners of a company, but to the customers and employees, other stakeholders, and to the whole society. This thought that we shouldn't nowadays talk only about the economic value, but also about the social values and how they together produce meaningfulness and social interactions and solutions that make everyone's living easier and better. Maybe help to recover from the stress and burnout feelings, and also to give you the feeling that you may, by using the services, you may, for example, do some good for other people and for the nature. So that was kind of context and background. I'll now say some words about services in general. What does service mean? Often services are defined by comparing them with goods, and some most common characteristics are that services are not tangible. That means that they are not something concrete that you kind of can grasp, but they are often very, very abstract and something that they are not easy to be defined. They cannot be stored or owned in the same way as physical products can be. And services are never separable from the consumption. They are produced, distributed, and consumed at the same time. So the service kind of becomes real at that very moment when somebody is using that service. So it is a process. It is a process, and as a service provider, one has to always remember that you have to take care of the whole process and not just concentrate on the outcome of that service process. For example, Moritz has said that services are complex experiences where customers are actively involved and experience them over time, and the customers always take part in the production of the service. So that is also an element that you need to take into account, that how do you help, for example, that how do you help the customer to take part in the production? How do you make the service in the production of the service? How do you make the service accessible to your customer and understandable, so that the customer actually knows what is expected from him or her? And all this also means that service quality is quite difficult to measure, because there may be the process or the outcome that all affects the customer's idea of the service quality, and also the customer's own feelings and well-being at that day and that moment when he or she is using the service may affect the feeling that he or she gets from the quality of the service. So if the customer is having a bad day, he or she may get this feeling that, oh, that service was just terrible, even though everything had gone just fine. And as a service provider, you can always try to help the customer to feel better and have a better day, but you can never totally kind of control the quality of the service. Today also it's quite usual that many companies, they outsource some parts of their production. So the service business also this way becomes more and more important. So the service may be part of the physical product, and together they form a kind of service product which includes both good and service. And also in the service sector, the companies, they are making more and more cooperation and offer their customers the opportunity to combine services from different service producers into personalized service packages. And this is a good thing to remember as an entrepreneur and service provider, that you don't have to do everything yourself, but you should try to find yourself partners and kind of make the services together. Okay, as many nature-based service providers, they are interested in the cooperation with the public sector and selling to the public sector. And as this is also one part of our Nordic NaBS project, so I thought that I would then say a few words about public services. And it is, I think that the nature-based services would very well supplement the public services and also be a very essential part of the public services, especially here in the northern countries where we still have lots of nature that we can use. Is maybe not a good word, but that we can use as part of the services. This definition comes straight from the Wikipedia, but I thought that there are some good basic points that give that kind of affect the cooperation with public services. So it's good to think about these. So public service is a service intended to serve all members of a community, and it is usually provided by government to people living within its jurisdiction, either directly, so that means through the public sector, or by financing provision of services. And the term public service is associated with the social consensus that certain services should be available to all, regardless of income, physical ability, or mental acuity. So even when the public services are neither publicly provided nor publicly financed, for social and political reasons, they are usually subject to regulation going beyond that, applying to most economic sectors. So this means that as a small service provider, if you're doing cooperation with the public sector, there are always more regulations and also kind of different idea of the money than it is on the private sector. And it also includes quite lots of bureaucracy that needs to be taken into account and kind of accepted, but that can also be discussed with the public sector customer. So here, maybe I'm saying the same things again, but coming from that, like the basic character of the public services, it means that laws and regulations very strongly shape the needs for services, and they shape the service processes and buying processes, etc. And the public organizations, they may itself produce and organize the service and maybe do cooperation with some other like organizations, but they also may outsource the service using the public tender process, for example, or then by using these service vouchers that are being more and more used also, for example, in the green care, in the buying of the green care services. And when you're to selling your services to the public sector, you also need to remember that the buyer and the user of the services are then usually different persons. So the service provider should kind of get information, know and understand the both of them. And the service provider should get enough information about the service users need in order to be able to sell such service that is really needed and appropriate. And then, of course, the service provider needs to get to know the buying process of the public service customer. And nowadays, especially in the service design sector, we talk more and more about the co-design, that how could the public services be designed together so that the service producers and customers and users together would be affecting the public services and developing them. So these are things that we are quite central in the Nordic NaBS project also, and we'll be discussing this a lot in the future, the piloting processes. So this is a kind of next step, that every time you need to know your customer, and then when you're dealing with the public customer, you get some like extra homework, but always you should know your customer, that to whom you are selling, and what is the value that your customer expects to get from the service that you're selling. What does the customer need and like, and what is the customer's everyday life like, that what is the life like that the service becomes a part of. So if you know, the more you know about the context that where your service is part of your customer's life, the more you can kind of define and design your services so that they can use the value to your customer. And especially when we are talking about bigger organizations and the public sector, you need to get to know how your customer does the buying. What is the buying process like? Who are the people that are involved in buying? Who makes the decisions in buying? It may be quite different people that you're discussing with than who then make the final decisions about if the service will be bought or not. And what needs and laws and regulations have an influence on the buying process. So there's some homework for those service providers that want to sell to the private sector. And again, we will help in Nordic NaBS project to do this and find out these things. Also, there's homework to do at home to get to know well your own work and your own service providing process. Service has or can be like imagined as a theater. So what the service uses is not everything. Service can be described as a theater where the public only sees what is meant to be seen. But then you need to consider that what is going on in the background and what was needed to get to this point where the public is seeing the play on the theater stage, or when the service user is actually using the service. And I give here this concept of service blueprint, that there's some as a kind of teaser, that if you're interested, you can do some Googling and find out that what it is about. But it's a thing that kind of visualization method that helps to see the processes and time and people and partners and things that the company needs in order to deliver the service to the user and create the user experience. So you can kind of imagine a line of visibility and what happens on both sides of it. What does the user of your service see when he or she is buying and using the service? And what do you see yourself? How do you organize that service? What do you have to do to get into that point? And can you visualize this picture? If you come to the workshops and take part in other actions in Nordic NaBS projects, for example, then we will go deeper into this. But the point is that you really should have quite clear idea about all those elements and the time and the money and the resources needed and the roles of the people, who is doing what and when, what do you need to buy somewhere, where you can get help from your partners, and so on and so on. What should the infrastructure be like, and the place where the service happens. So all this you should have quite clear idea about when you are producing your service process. And it's a good thing to sometimes take a paper and start drawing some squares and texts and lines and so on to figure out what is going on and what is needed. So that is what Service Blueprint is about. And finally, some things to think about if you're starting as an entrepreneur or working as an entrepreneur right now, or maybe in a third sector association, if you're producing or thinking of producing some nature-based or any services. So some questions to you to think about. That are you providing the services that your customers value? And are you doing the things you yourself value? So there should be a balance between these two things. And you should be quite ready to hear that what kind of feedback you get from your customers, from the buyers and from the users. And also you should be quite honest about how you're communicating your business. Are you doing the things that you communicate to others in your business plan or website, brochures or Facebook, and in general when you're talking about your business, etc. And also you should try to find out that do the customers appreciate those things that you focus on when developing your services and when you're marketing and communicating them? Or do you actually get some positive feedback from quite other things? That's always a good thing to think about also, that if you may get really good feedback from those things that you actually didn't pay that much attention to, maybe you should focus more on them and design and develop them further and market them. And then of course you always need to think about that, where the money comes from, but also where do you spend your money, and how do you spend your time in your business, etc., etc. Very common and questions, but very useful to think about every now and then. For example, have a day in your calendar that when you should sit down and go through these things. Business model canvas is one thing that you can use as a canvas and helper in these considerations. So we come back to these some basic questions: that what are your mission, values, goals and core services? What resources and competencies do you have to get? Do you need to get to your goals? And don't forget the networks. You don't have to do everything yourself, as I've said this a couple of times earlier. And think about that. What do you focus on now, and on what do you focus in the near future and in the long run? Make plans. And then also go back to those plans every now and then and see how has it gone, and should you then do maybe some changes in the business and services, or in the service environment, maybe in marketing, resource planning or finances. Or maybe you should acquire some new skills or knowledge. So these are things that are good to be thought every now and then. Now we'll see if I'll get Jarmo awake. Okay,
yes, I'm
so
here.
I think You
you
could
or
go
do
on
you
now
want?
with talking about the skills of an entrepreneur and pricing of the services. I made you some context and background for that, and now you can go deeper into these details. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Satu. It was very nice and interesting presentation. Your part, service as a theater was
Yeah.
very nice because the customers don't need to know what happens behind the screens. So it's
Yes.
really a theater. And entrepreneurs or entrepreneur is in a main role in that theater. So it's very nice to know that we we or who uses services they are really in
Yeah.
theater. So uh, so I will continue.
Yes, you will continue
Satu.
now, and I'll.
Yes, I heard it a little bit. So uh, first, in my part, I'm talking about the skills of an entrepreneur and and uh, why it's important that you have so-called entrepreneur skills. And I have worked with a long time with the entrepreneurs who start their business. I have worked in countryside, different business branches, also in green care brands. Uh, but 15 years ago, when I worked in countryside, entrepreneurs, I think they don't understood that it was green care. It was service, but they didn't call it green care. Um, Pricing as a process is very easy. Easy, only the simple calculation or mathematics is good enough. The most important thing for entrepreneurs is how they will find the customers from the market where they do the business. So, but the skills of entrepreneur, um, their driving force to achieve success, they need many other skills. Just few hours ago, I discussed with the entrepreneur from the construction business, and he told that it's long term. It needs a long time when you really find the right customers and or he told why he has so much customers that he can even choose and say something some customers that okay I have no time to do business with you. Entrepreneurs has personal skills. You have something which we don't, for example, I don't have. Um, Many times entrepreneurs or my customers asked a question, please tell me what should I do that I will get a lot of money? And I had a very simple answer for them. If I know that, I will do it myself. And and probably I have think that I have no skills to be an entrepreneur because I think I can calculate too much or I can't not take risks. I'm a low risk uh, human, so I'm not good in business. There are two archetype archetypes. What makes an entrepreneur an entrepreneur? They are inventor and at the same time they can sell their products or services. Some or other how the customers trust their quality. The price is not so important than the quality, and people do business and buy once again from the same company or an entrepreneur and go to spend their free time in the same company, for example, in farm or something else in countryside. When we are talking about services, we have to notice that we and entrepreneurs sells their time. And of course, they have some skills to do, for example, business with horses. But as we here, I have sold my free time to university. I will get salary. Entrepreneurs have got money from their services. The same thing, and that's why the price must be in right level. That entrepreneur I met this morning told that it's very little difference between two entrepreneurs' price in that business branch where he did do that business. So so they have get good enough money from their hour which they sell. In countryside, in my experience, during my experience, many people, many entrepreneurs do their business like a hobby, and it's at the same time hobby and a job. But during long time, they will many times notice that okay, it's not so nice. They need money easier, less hours, more money. So sometimes they finish a good career of entrepreneur. Uh, as a consumer, we buy value from markets. So the entrepreneurs has ability to create that value for their customers. Um, in service business, or they can do goods in better price than their competitors. There are an example, Bill Gates, we know who he is. So he operated with IBM and set Microsoft, and now the Microsoft has a global dominance. People, I have think a lot of people who can create new products. What kind of persons they are? Many times they are very normal engineers. They don't need a lot of education. They are not high educated people. They do business. I think they can take risks, or they don't know what kind of risks in their business at the beginning there are. They just do a hard job and survive, and someday they are very success entrepreneurs. They can do something better than others. Uh, in business success, the present is that you know what you offer and how to invent and to manage its sale. Mm, Pricing is also an issue which you have managed because there are many different pricing methods or strategies, and you can use different price in different customers groups. For example, in services now, I think the prices are very high in Lapland because there is a lot of tourists there, but there are also some seasons where the prices are lower. So different price for different time for different customers groups. Of course, for example, if I have a service where I need a lot of capital, the price must be higher because the costs are also higher. To use pricing as a how do I say, to get the markets from the competitors or to come to new markets. It will ensure your business success. Right pricing many times lead to situation where the volume the customers will buy your service a lot, and you will get good enough profit, and you can pay, for example, your salaries. You will get good workers. The workers trust you because you can pay the salaries and so on, and success will lead more and more better success. Of course, during entrepreneur life cycle, you have plan and take new risks if you would like to be a picker in that market where you do that business. Prices that competitors charge for the certain product, the consumers or customers will find what is the normal price for that kind of product. We all know what is right price for milk, for example. We who use services, we have some kind of site what is right price for many services. We are quite traditional thing is that the market says what is the right price. Markets really works because if we have a lot of, for example, some services in markets, the price will come down, and if there are not so much, if customers want to buy more than we have something in our markets, the price will go up. And this price which has given in markets, it's some or other how a starting point, but if you want to get more money from the markets, you can only add value and be a better from your competitors. Some or other how you have to be better because the markets don't want to pay more money from so-called, for example, basic products or services. So you have do something better if you want to get more money than your competitors. In micro companies, the entrepreneur is in response for pricing and the success of company. But, but bigger companies who has more power in markets, normally the management board, the managers are in response in pricing. We all know that sometimes the prices, especially products, are very low. It's normal because, for example, company want sell their store away to change their products to money, and they won't sell them in low price. Sometimes, especially in very technology business, where the technology runs fast, the companies won't sell, for example, bit old televisions in very low price because there are coming something new for customers. In services, this is not possible because we are selling time. We have only 24 hours a day what we can sell in theory, but to my mind, the entrepreneurs can only sell 6 to 7, 8 hours his or her time in every day, because entrepreneur has a lot of jobs to do. For example, bookkeeping, accounting, marketing, contacting customers, telephone, emails, etc. And there are in my presentation two most popular ways to pricing. First is cost-based, and another is marketing-based pricing. And they both our those leads to pricing methods: cost plus pricing and competitive plus pricing. This is very normal. This we understand. This is very simple. We have selling price equals average cost price and profit markup. We calculate dividing total costs by sales volume. Profit markup is derived from earlier experience and history. History is very difficult because if we don't have any information from the future, what happens in markets, we do sometimes big mistakes because, as we say in Finland, years are not brothers together. So there are a lot of difference between years and what happens in global markets. For example, if we think a tourist business, for example, Brexit it has some influence for the Lapland's tourist business. So we can't price our products during history, or we can, but it can lead a situation where the customers don't want to buy our services. Total costs, they are quite easy to calculate. For example, if I have a personnel, we know the, for example, personal salary. So average cost price we can calculate easily. And selling price is average cost and times 1 plus profit markup. This is many times this profit markup difficult for many entrepreneurs and people who are pricing services or products, because if we want to get 60% markup, we have to calculate so that it's 2.5 times average cost price. Then we will get 60% profit mark. We need in this method volume forecast, and we have to make a decision what is good enough profit markup in our service or product. And of course, as I said, the markets will say what is the right price. If we would like to get 60%, and there is a lot of players in markets, it's many times difficult to get. We can achieve it, but we have to do a lot of job. As normal in every theory, there are some problems. This cost plus pricing doesn't give you a real sight of the market and its situation, so we don't know what happens around our business. Is there many players in the same market and in the same area? The power of market supply, we don't know it, and we don't have any idea what do the market really wants. Customer willingness to buy or ability to really pay for our service. What are the products features? What really matters to customers and drive them to choose your service or product preferred than the competitors. And as I said, the profit markup is itself a subjective choice from the entrepreneur in little companies and the bigger companies, for example, management group. The cost basic calculation is many times difficult because cost-based calculation leads to situation that we use costs. We put, for example, rents. For example, rent. We put it. For example, same amount of rent cost to all our products. For example, storing costs. We have a big store in our company, but we don't have there all our products. Some products we sell from our cooperators store, but that products have to take a part of our storing costs, so we don't find the real best profit services or products from our company. So this leads and eats the profit margin, and if your profit decreases, you became more and more prudent. This will be very difficult because it sends or gives a signal to customers and in bigger companies sales staff. If, for example, we are in tourist business or green care business, that the price is not in the right level, it's too high. Maybe the customers will expect another discount next year, even when they are satisfied with the service or product. It's important that the whole economics of the companies is in good, and we have money and possible to get money from financial markets. So if our pricing is not in good condition, if I can say so, we will get some financial difficulties. Calculating average cost requires assumption in 3 areas: total costs, sales volume, and profit markup. This competitive pricing is many times difficult also because salespeople want prices which are easy. They want prices which are in the same line as the competitors. Because it's easy to sell with same prices. They're afraid to lose customers. It's very simple if we have same prices, so customers don't need to choose from the market with who they do or whose service they use. The price is very high when we hard when we choose services or products. It's many times difficult for me to choose the best quality or understand why I have to choose the better quality services. It takes a little bit time. If I think why I don't take this 100 euros room, what is better in 150 euros room? So it's difficult to make a decision. That's why the price is many times the thing that which leads to us to choose the services. However, generally the price has only a share of less than 50% in consumers and companies' buying decision. Salespeople, salesmen or women often forget that there are many other things that are more meaningful for the customers: quality, service, brand, and terms of supply. especially business to business sales. And as at the beginning, I talk about the skills of entrepreneur. The business is always people do business together. The machines don't do it. We have to give them. If we have some machine which do something, we have to say it do this, for example, to robot. So it's more and more important that you find the right person, and that's why the skills of entrepreneur are in top one when we do service business, especially in countryside. Defining the market price is not as easy as it seems. It requires thorough understanding of who your immediate competitors are, your so-called peer group. When the price is right, both players, buyers and sellers will win. And the markets are in balance because the price role is to balance markets. So this is the picture from my free time. It's green care. We were in forest in hunting trip. It's quite cheap to go and use our beautiful nature during 4 different type of year. Autumn is also very nice time to spend time in nature. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you.